Thank you for joining me while I was having my third coffee today. I made that mic, by the way. Nice. In this video, I will try to answer two really important questions. One, do size matter? Two, should you get the gamesir X2S for gaming on the iPad? Let's start with the latter. Yes, you should buy because the size doesn't matter. Now that is out of the way, let me show you how to turn this into this. Well, if that transition worked out, you already know what we're going to be making in this video. Well, we are not going to be making in this video. I already made it. I'm going to show you what happened behind the scenes. And also, we're going to do a little test how it plays and how it behaves on the iPad and how it feels in the hand. First of all, if you're considering buying the gamesir X2S for your mobile device like your smartphone, I think you can find other videos that will give you a much better information than I can. This is not going to be an in-depth review video. It is rather first impressions. But if you are considering to buying it for your iPad, or you were not considering to buying it for your iPad, maybe after this video, you will seriously consider it because it's actually pretty awesome. Without wasting your time, I will try to tell you why you should consider this little controller for mobile gaming with your smartphone or with your tablets, and I will show you how to turn this into an incredible iPad controller with actually very little effort because I already made it and you can just download it. So let's get into it. What is this? This is a telescopic controller. It has springs inside. You can just put it apart. You can put your smartphone in it. You have a handheld console. Whatever you can play on your smartphone, this will let you play it better. If the game you want to play supports controller, then you will have a great time because it amplifies the experience by a lot. There are other things you can buy. I will get to that in a different video probably. The main focus today will be gamesir X2S and how I'm gaming on an iPad with that. This thing is a Bluetooth controller. It is compatible with everything that has Bluetooth, pretty much every smart device. It can be your mobile phone, it can be your computer, it can be your tablet as well, as long as it fits inside the controller. Speaking of controls, it has two Hall effect sticks, two Hall effect triggers, two shoulder buttons, more or less the standard configuration that you can find on all controllers. It has the A, B, X, Y buttons on an Xbox layout. It offers software customization on iOS or Android. I think it offers a bit more software customizations on Android because of openness of the platform, I guess. And on iOS, you can adjust the stick sensitivity, dead zones, also for the triggers, analog triggers or hair triggers. So you can arrange the configuration of the face buttons, in this case, A, B, X, Y buttons. It doesn't have any rumble motors. It doesn't have any kind of haptic features. It should be about 170 grams, which is pretty light. I'm not entirely sure how big is the battery, but it should let you play anywhere between 10 to 18 hours if I'm not lying. I might be lying. If I was lying, I will put the actual battery capacity and the playtime on my forehead. And lastly, since it's meant to be used with a mobile device, like a smartphone or a tablet, a device up to 168 millimeters. This is the maximum you can open it. And right now, that I'm already hitting the limiter. So this is not gonna go beyond that. Except it actually can. This is why we are here today. Before we get to that, compared to the Xbox controllers I have, you can see them over there, I prefer the feeling of these buttons and analogs. First of all, buttons sound much better in my opinion. Second of all, Hall effect features like the sticks and the triggers actually feel more precise. I'm not sure, it might be just placebo, but I feel like using the sticks, I am a tiny bit more precise in shooting games, driving games, as I can drive a little bit better with the sticks. I like the sensitivity that I'm getting out of them. Other games like platformers probably it's not gonna matter that much. And lastly, the pros and cons of this device. The pros: compatibility, customization, precision, Hall effect sticks and triggers, button feeling, very strong springs and the telescopic mechanism, it is light, and turbo functions which I have never used and have no idea about. And when it comes to cons, they would be the button placement, especially the start and select buttons. You can see probably they are not called start and select buttons, but it's a childhood thing. I don't know how to move on. This button and this button. This side is not that problematic since your thumb is already here, but I couldn't find the way to click on this button without moving the sticks. So this is a bit unfortunately placed. Probably it would have been much better if it was here somewhere. If I can mention it as a cone, I think that's a cone. It feels a little plasticky. It is plastic, but it really feels plasticky, if it makes sense. And lastly, this thing is not compatible with my iPad. Again, why we are making this video today. After quite a bit of teasing, let me show you how do I make this work with my iPad. Let me switch to my top-down camera. Probably you already noticed that this is much bigger than 168 millimeters. So that's not going to work out. But just to demonstrate, this is how much space left still on the left and right side of the iPad. That's also not possible. But there's one thing about this controller that you can actually separate both sides. There's no cables or anything inside. Let's put the iPad aside for now and let me show you how that works. You hear this? There's a limiter inside. It's just another plastic piece that prevents this from popping off. But if you apply a little pressure here and gently pull this out, then you clear the limiter. Right now I'm going to try to put it at an angle so it doesn't collapse on itself again and it doesn't close, because now we are getting into the actual fun part of this video. Oh, it closed. Okay, we are getting into the fun part of the video. I have to admit that I could have done a much better job prototyping, but when I'm prototyping something and then I 3D print it, I try to change one feature at a time. One thing I try to do is, for instance, to get the profile right first. This has a very specific profile and it should fit. And I thought that in the beginning, I can make this a clicky thing that you can just remove easily. But in the end, these springs turned out to be very, very strong actually. Really impressive pulling force. I decided not to use the clicking function and I decided to screw them instead. So this is out of the way. Then I tried to make something like this to align the inside. Then I made another thing to cover it up. It's a terrible print quality, but just so you get the idea. Then I decided to screw this in on 4 holes you can see here. But it turned out to be not as strong as I would like it to be. So I made another version with 6 holes. Then I noticed that this controller on the left and right side has a really specific angle on both ends. And when you bring the lid on top, you never know which side is which. So I made these little arrows on this to point out the direction. Another smaller prototype that I had to cut to not to print all the way through because you can see that this is already quite a bit of plastic waste. I'm saving these parts. One day I will figure out how to recycle them properly so these never go to trash. Either they will hopefully turn into filament so I can use them again, or I will try to find a way to properly compost them, or I will break them into pieces and maybe just random colorful art. I don't know. But I try to be conscious about this. That's why I make small pieces when I can. But here I failed at that. After the prototyping was done, I ended up with this version. You can see that it already has a TPU pad up top, and this actually fits perfectly. It has all the features. I started using this and I will show you how to install it. But before that, I just want to show you one more thing. I wasn't really happy with how much space that I see. So I tried to minimize it because you can see on the controller itself also, it's quite minimal. You might say that there's gonna be a tablet in the middle. Why do you care that much? Well, I don't, but I also don't know when to stop. So I made this instead. I think this turned out much better. Let's also get these two out of the way and let's talk about the final product, and then I will show you how to install that. It's actually quite simple. So let's install this and let's see how it works with the app. Here are some M2 by 6 screws in a tiny little Gridfinity box, because everybody knows part of the midlife crisis is that you buy stuff that you will never use and then you find ways to organize them. And having a 3D printer only makes things worse, or better, depending on your perspective. I have drawers filled with Gridfinity with screws in them that I rarely use, but in this case, they come really handy, so maybe in the future, I can make a video about this stuff like everyone else does. So why not me too? And we need a screwdriver. In this case, it's Parkside, the sponsor of Midlife Crisis Hobbycrafts, unofficially. Here, I will try to demonstrate the same opening once again. I did it so many times, it's already quite loose. It wasn't this loose in the first time. And also, speaking of loose things, I have to show you that this spring wasn't this loose in the beginning. I think this was very good, very tight. It was really difficult to open, but this is something that you should know if you will use this with an iPad. Even though I try to make these things as reversible as possible, that's why it has screws instead of glues, so you should be able to take out the screws and take the whole thing off, and this goes back to being a phone controller. But again, it has springs inside and these springs will get loose. So let's pop it off again. Finger here, gentle push. In this position, what I try to do without letting it go is to take this, put it in this slot, flip it around, which makes everything easier actually. Now I can just put it in place and it snaps and clicks. It's really satisfactory. I already know which direction this has to go because the arrow's pointing on the right side. And let's quickly screw this in and we can get to the iPad setup. I have so many Parkside stuff in my drawers. I can get a sponsorship from them. And they don't even need to send me review units. I probably already have all of them. So Parkside, if you're watching this, I'm a really easy sponsorship. It's done. It's looking pretty cool. It's still very functional, as you can see, and since it's already in the most tense position beyond its design limits, it's actually even harder to open this thing. But now, at least, it will be able to fit my 11-inch iPad. Yeah, something like this. Initially, I was a bit hesitant to game on the iPad in this handheld position, completely holding it on my hand. This thing is 170 grams, iPad is around 500 grams, if not a little bit more. So I was thinking to myself, isn't it too much weight to carry while gaming for an hour or so? But turns out Steam Deck is not much light either. I think overall it's quite comparable. These days, this is what I'm playing, Prince of Persia. I don't know, maybe I don't have the skills for it, but I find it quite difficult to get past levels. Maybe the game is designed that way, or maybe I suck at playing video games. But it's quite fun if you are playing it in handheld mode. It actually gives you a nice handheld computer, handheld gaming device feeling, just playing it like this. Also, now since it's in handheld mode, there's another function that you probably should see. If you put it in vertical mode, you can play some of the worst games from a console that I shall not name in dual screen mode, just like this. If that is your thing, it's certainly not mine. I really don't enjoy doing this stuff. So here it is. It works with the iPad. It's a fantastic controller. I think this, with the extension part I designed, it transformed my iPad gaming experience into something else. And you might argue, why don't you get a Switch? Why don't you get a Steam Deck? And even though I would love to have a Steam Deck, and probably I will buy it one day, I thought to myself, why not use the device that I already have instead of purchasing something? The other part is that once you have a 3D printer, everything starts to become 3D printable, even though it's not really necessary. Wouldn't it be an interesting thing to experiment with if I can just buy this controller and extend it to the iPad size? And I know that I'm not the first one doing this. I found already multiple iterations of this has been done and being sold on Etsy. You can buy it. I could have bought it, but I already have 3D printers. I have a little bit of CAD knowledge. Why don't I put them in action? Here we are. I have this thing. I love it. It really evolved my iPad gaming experience. This thing turned out to be pretty strong, and I already have quite a large backlog on the iPads that I need to finish. I already bought a lot of games. So, I don't know, this seemed both a fun challenge to tackle and also a reasonable investment. I had fun. So, since you already have seen it, please let me know what you think about it. Is this something you would want to do yourself? Would you consider this gamepad? Do you have an iPad? Do you have a gamesir X2S controller already? You can find it on MakerWorld. I will link it down below. You can download it and print it yourself. If you already have a 3D printer, please download it and print it. You will need 6 M2 screws, M2 by 6 screws. Alternatively, you can glue it, but just know that it's not designed to be glued on. Please let me know if you had a chance to download it, print it, and try it. I would really appreciate the feedback. Please let me know how do you feel about it. I hope you really enjoyed it. I would appreciate your comments. If you like this, please consider subscribing and dropping a like. And see you on the next video. Bye.